you a student, mentor, or parent that loves robotics?
Then you're in the right place.
Up-to-date info on all things robotics. This
is the RoboZone podcast
with your host, Pete Ekman. The RoboZone podcast is brought to you by Kettering University. It's a Kettering-built world.
Hello and welcome to the 59th episode of the RoboZone podcast. This podcast is for Tuesday, May 1st. In this episode, we talk to the champs from the Detroit World Championships. We get to know what it was like to be at the World Championships for the first time here in Detroit in the new venue. We get to know the teams a little bit better, know the alliance that won the championship here in Detroit, and finally, in the closing segment of the Rookie Roundup with Brandi Bolinger, we discuss what rookie teams should be doing in the offseason, including recruiting and fundraising. So let's get to a roundtable discussion with the champs.
The RoboZone podcast is brought to you by AndyMark.com, your robot parts experts.
We're done. We're done with Power Up, and with me tonight, I have 3 of the 4 individuals from the Alliance that won Detroit. So without further ado, we're going to go into some introductions. Cory, please introduce yourself.
I'm Cory Walters. I am the drive coach for FRC 2767 Strike Force.
The two-time, I'm going to say that a couple times, 2-time champs in a row. That's it. We'll
back
get
to
into
back.
Yeah, back to back. Like the bad boys from Detroit back in the day in the 90s.
Yep.
With us, along with Cory, we have Zach. Zach, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Zach Jester. I'm the drive coach with Team 4027 Center County 4-H Robotics, and this was our first time at Worlds.
And where's your team from? You said the city, but what state? It's not inside the state of Michigan.
That's State College, Pennsylvania.
Nice. And we have none other than Kyle. Kyle, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kyle Hughes. I'm with Team 27, and it was our 22nd time being at World Championship. First time World Champions. Thanks to Cory and Strike Force for picking us.
And we're going to get into that. And none other than we have Brandi Bolinger coming back onto the podcast. Brandi, please introduce yourself.
My name is Brandi Bolinger, and I'm co-head mentor of Team 2337, the Engine Nerds out of Grand Blanc, Michigan.
Well, I'd like to start off with this interview or this session with telling you guys thank you for coming on board tonight. You guys are all tired. Robot hangovers are a thing. We all know this through the regular season, but I think you guys are a little bit extra exhausted from the World Championships in Detroit. So, Cory, we'll start with you. How was our first World Championship in Detroit? How did you enjoy yourself?
Oh, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It was nice having the pits close to the field, and there wasn't like a 300-yard, 400-yard march from the pits to the field this time. It was hard. I think at first it was really hard to see the scale of the event. Like, I guess in St. Louis and in Atlanta, you could get high enough that you could see like all the pits and you could see all the fields. And at Cobo, it was really hard to get that height to like really suck and soak everything in of the atmosphere. I thought the big halls before you got to the competition and the pits was pretty cool, having the big stairway down to the Innovation Fair and the FLL and Junior FLL area. But I enjoyed it. I think it was cool having the river there, and Canada's right across the way. And I think First did a good job for the first time in Detroit.
And Zach, you're not from Michigan. The rest of us are. So how did you enjoy Detroit for the first time we've had the World Championship here?
Yeah, so I can't really compare it to previous championship events. This is our first time going to one, but I was impressed. First had really taken over the city. They had basically every park within a few miles of the Cobo Center, like within a mile or so of the Cobo Center, completely full of various activities. One of them, they set up a giant arcade. They have food trucks. And inside the Cobo Center itself was amazing. They managed to get everybody through the security for both the Cobo Center and the Lions Stadium without really any hassle. And like, they kept everything clean. They kept everything safe. It was pretty impressive.
And Kyle, you have the most experience of all of us on this panel, almost all of us put together. So how did you enjoy Detroit with the World Championships here?
First of all, Pete, are you calling me old?
I'm not. I just said you're most experienced. I would never call you old, Kyle, ever. I
The
know better
old
than
gray
that.
mare. She's back. Well, I think that it was awesome. We've been to Houston, we've been to Orlando, we've been to Atlanta, we've been to St. Louis. I think that Detroit did a really nice job. I agree with Cory that when you walked into the stands, the grandeur of walking into a stadium and feeling that overwhelming awe of the size was missing. But at the same time, like he said, the trade-off was it was awesome to have, your pits near the stands so that you could, be in contact. When we were in St. Louis and Atlanta, the minute that you needed to talk to someone in the stands, it was a 10, 15-minute walk to get back to the pits. And so that was super nice. And I think being compact in one building was super awesome because with the Innovation Fair and everything right there, we sent 2 busloads of kids down from our school. There were 120 kids that went down, and they just were overwhelmed to be able to see how cool the World Championship was because they've heard about it for years but have never been able to participate. So I think Detroit and First did a great job. And other than having more bathrooms would have been nice, but other than that, I think that it was a really great event. It was a super wonderful event.
The bathroom remark, I think, goes for states as well here in the state of Michigan at SVSU. There's always a need for more bathrooms with as many people because we set a new attendance record with this championship here in Detroit. From what I was told, I thought they said 43,000 people were sitting there watching. No pressure to you guys in the finals.
I think that because the days are so long, people are drinking hordes of water from dawn till dusk, just trying to stay hydrated. And hence, yes, they needed more bathrooms. Just end of sentence.
And we'll leave that comment at that, and we won't go any further because people might be eating when they listen to this. So, Brandi, tell us about your experience with Detroit. You've been to a bunch of different championships. Did you like the setup for Detroit?
Yep. So this is the Engineers 11th season, and we've made it to the championship 10 out of our 11 years. So we've been to Atlanta and St. Louis and now to Detroit. And I will say that I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not going to lie. I was hesitant about it being in Detroit. I've been to Detroit on several occasions, and I was very impressed at how clean the city was, how much security there was, and just the overall atmosphere for it. And, we've all been to Cobo Hall for the International Auto Show, but it was like a whole new building, a whole new place, a whole new experience. And I thought that it was great. I was very, very surprised. We ended up staying downtown right near Greek Town, and the restaurants were all accommodating. It was just phenomenal.
So it sounds like they've done a pretty good job setting this up for the next couple of years. I know that Detroit has the 3-year contract, including this year, so we'll see where it goes. But I think one of the best things, and none of you guys have mentioned it yet, we actually had good weather. The last 2 years in St. Louis, we were unloading and loading in monsoons or thunderstorms. I remember last year trying to get on a bus, and then people trying to get from St. Louis back to Detroit were going through tornadoes when they were going through Kentucky, I believe it was. So it was nice to have good weather, and thank God it changed when it did because a couple weeks ago it was snowing. So at least you guys didn't have to worry about that. You could actually walk downtown and eat and do what you guys need to do and at least have a little bit of good weather. So let's get into the competition a little bit, okay? Cory, all three of you guys came off the same field. What field was that, Cory? What field did you guys compete on?
That was Daily Field.
The Daily Field.
Daily
Field. There was a little bit of a flashback for me while I was watching you guys on the finals. I wasn't down there that day, but I was watching online. I had 6 screens going on the same time through the Twitch cast. So I was watching all 6 fields at the same time, which is kind of cool. While you're at work, it made the workday go by very fast. But I saw the Thunder Chickens come out, and then I saw them pick the Comets. I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. I'm going to see, we're going to go Michigan versus Michigan. I'm glad that your guys' alliance was a little bit diverse with the not just a Michigan crew. So how did the Daily Field treat you guys? We know you guys won the championship, but how was the different on the world stage rather than the state final stage?
So, like, how did Daily go compared to round robin?
Exactly.
It felt a lot more like the divisions, I guess you compare it to, at like states. Right away in the quarterfinals, the Alliance 1, Alliance 3, and Alliance 4 all lost in the quarterfinals. So there's 3 upsets, and thankfully that upset wasn't on our end. But 1, 3, and 4 all got knocked out. We were just kind of going through and just kind of ran the same strategy that we ran all the way through Daily, and it was us and Rush were putting up cubes on the scale, and either 2708 or 4027 was playing some hard-nosed D and filling the vault up a little bit. So it went well. We got to finals was probably the one time we ran into a hiccup. We got into the finals 1, and we ran into Alliance. It was Alliance 6, and 2708 blew a Talon, and they weren't able to drive backwards in half their drivetrain in the first finals. And we didn't do well in Auton in the first finals, so we lost the first finals. But we got 4027 came in finals 2 and in finals 3, while 2708 was getting fixed up, and we went swinging. And then I'll have Kyle tell you about what happened in finals 3.
Oh, I can't wait to ask her about that one. So, Zach, let's move on to you. Zach, tell us a little bit about your experience from outside the state of Michigan compared to coming in and going to Worlds. What is it a lot different? Most of us are here from Michigan, so we kind of experience all the same teams within our state because we have 100 or 508 right now. But tell us a little bit about the Pennsylvania area. How is it a little bit different?
Yeah, so Pennsylvania is on a regional model, so it ends up being a lot more diverse. We commonly, at the Pittsburgh Regional, which is our main event we do, we commonly get teams from China, Taipei. And then like last year we had Team 359, the Hawaiian kids that came in and swept the entire thing. So Detroit, it was a little, you're seeing the number of Michigan teams there, it was a little more like, as in they were all the same. There were some teams from other countries, other states, but really there's a very large amount of Michigan teams there, and was honestly a little intimidating.
Okay, thanks for giving us a little bit of insight how it is in Pennsylvania. Sometime I'd love to take my team to Pennsylvania and compete. If I ever had the sponsorships to do that, that's a lot of money to go outside the state. But thanks for giving us a little bit of insight there. So Kyle, tell us about the competition. Tell us about what Cory led on with. Tell us about Finals 3. What happened?
Well, I'm not sure I was supposed to tell anyone this, but it was a great strategic strategy to go defense on that round. Actually, as we were, I gotta tell you, getting on a daily was, in my opinion, the hardest thing during the day because the matches. Well, I was trying to explain to my students this morning that on Thursday we played 5 matches. On Friday we played 5 matches. On Saturday, before 10:30 in the morning, we already played 7 matches. And we still had more to go. And so those matches, I mean, the play started and then all of a sudden you're going and going, and now you're going faster and faster. And so going into that last match, we had a wire was cut in our intake. And they fixed it real quick, but we weren't able to test it to know whether or not it was going to be able to pick up a cube or not. And so I turned to Cory and said, okay, I know we can push it out. We just don't know if we can bring it in. We could drive up to a wall and pick up cubes that way, knowing that we could get them out, and or we could play defense. And he's like, just lock it down and play some D. And so I turned to my son, who's my driver, who has been doing this pretty much most of his life. And I turned to him, and he also plays defense on football. So he sees the field really well. And I said, all right, buddy, it's time to play D. And if you could have seen the smile on his face, it was like I gave him a gift because, that's his favorite thing to do. He's been driving D against my drivers for years, since he was like 5 or 6. So he buckled it down, and he had some fun. He was actually, I could hear him just short of giggling because he was smiling. And at one point, my controls driver, leaned over and said, "You're doing really good, Cody." And we all laughed about that today because he played out of his mind. So it was exciting to see that the strategy worked and that Strike Force could continue to keep scaling. And we kept those guys from getting any cubes, which was really important. It was the only way, in my mind, that we had one job and one job only, and that was to stop anyone from coming to our side of the field and getting a cube. And I think Cody did it. It was awesome.
Were you worried at all, Kyle, that he would break something? Because when you play defense, and if your son's a football player and plays defense, there's no not playing half defense; it's full force defense. So, were you praying for him not to hurt the robot any further?
Well, knowing how he drives, we have some safety mechanisms. The first one is that the grippers had to go up into package because I knew definitely he'd break those off. The other thing that he does when he plays D is he actually drives backwards, and he uses the back end of the robot to stop people. So I figured he can't hurt anything back there. But when he was going to be a driver in 7th and 8th grade, the driver before said to him, "The rule of driving is they must build a robot that can get broken but fixed in the pit." So when he became a freshman, he used to break the robot a lot. And he'd walk off the field and look at the pit crew and say, "I was told you can fix this." And so our robot has gotten more and more robust over the years because they know that if he has to play D, it's going to be a pretty big mess. So it's pretty awesome. It was awesome to have my son, the senior, finish at Ford Field. Couldn't have been a better end of the year.
Yes, you're not retiring, right?
Now, what is all this talk about this?
It's a joke. You led up to it. You built it up to that point. Like you said, this is the best it could ever get. Your son's a senior. You guys finally won a championship. That's sometimes people say people go out on top. I'm not saying we want you to leave, Kyle, by any means. Trust me.
Yeah, Cory texted me today and said, "I heard you're retiring," and I'm like, "What?"
See.
No, many people have asked that question, but they asked the same question when we won chairman's too. So, no, I think if anything, it's kind of lit a fire. And since I'm going to be an empty nester in the fall, I have lots of time to build robots, train drivers, and have some fun. I want to do a drive camp.
I have that same problem, and it's not a problem, Kyle, being an empty nester. It just means you have more time to spend towards robots.
I know. That's what my husband's afraid of.
So, Brandi, tell me what the experience was for the engine nerds. Tell me what field you guys were on and how you guys ended up during the weekend.
Sure. We were on the Darwin division, which was incredibly deep. There were so many amazing robots, so many amazing skill bots on our division. It was like anybody's game. When Alliance selection was going on, there were some really unique strategies for Alliance selection. We ended up ranking 12th overall and getting picked up by the 5th seeded Alliance. And I mean, there were alliances that were like super heavy. There were some that were kind of like playing the switch game. And, like when we were looking back at what all the alliances were, we thought to ourselves, like, there's no bad alliance. There's no weak alliance on this. And it's going to be like a fight to the death to get whoever gets out of here. Right. So one thing that was definitely weird and unique about Darwin is there were 2 matches on our field with what is now being deemed the Phantom Point, where when the scores of the sums of all of the scoring points on the field were summed up, it didn't match the number of the score that was displayed. And this happened twice. So when we left Friday night, the team that was in number 1 ended up not being number 1 on Saturday morning. Team 56 ended up actually going up to the top because of match 112, where there was a Phantom Point that didn't get counted. And so it threw everything for a loop, and it was just a super crazy day. We ended up getting paired up with team 35 10:42 speed and 10:18. And we had a really great time. We unfortunately lost in the quarterfinals to 3 very hard-fought matches to the teams that ended up being finalists in our division. It was just an amazing experience for all of our students. We walked away with the Gracious Professionalism Award, which is something that's a big point of pride for our team. And just overall, it was an awesome experience for us.
Okay, Cory, tell us a little bit about when you guys moved from Cobo Hall for people who aren't here and they're listening. So everyone migrated from Cobo Hall to Ford Field, right? Was that like the Walk of the Champions, or what? How did that feel going? I wasn't there, so what was it like to go from Cobo Hall to Ford Field? Because there's like a 3 or 4 block, maybe 6 blocks that you had to walk. Did they shut off streets? How did they do it?
I don't know because I rode in the van with the robot.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, that would make sense.
Yeah. So when you got done with the round robin, first came to us, and it kind of felt like if you ever seen the show like Amazing Race, they gave you a package with instructions in it. It's like, here's the package, and inside is instructions of what's next. And it's pretty much saying you had to get your pit to the loading dock, get your robot to the loading dock. Your pit was going to go inside of like a lift gate moving truck, and each alliance's individual robot and robot cart got to go and do like this big Ford transit van. So they had 8 Ford transit vans, each to hold 1 robot and 1 robot cart. And a first volunteer drove the van, and then one mentor had to ride in the van with the robot. So at the time, the other mentor we had in the pit crew was helping load the trucks, and first wanted us to get the vans moving. So I hopped in the van and said, let's go. So we strapped the robot down, strapped the robot cart down, and we start going to Ford. And so I don't know if they shut down streets or how the walk was, because I was in this van, just putzing around the city with the robot in the back. So then we get to Ford Field, and then first stop, they stop this caravan of these 8 vans, all holding individual robots, and they had like a dog come by and smell all of the vans. So I'm sitting in this van, and here comes this dog, and this dog gets in the van and starts smelling our robot. So I'm taking pictures of this dog. I'm like, this is sweet. Like, there's this bomb sniffing dog checking out our robot and our robot cart. And then so once that was done, then they brought all 8 vans down to Ford Field and drove them right onto the field to unload. And then the trucks came in with our pit, and then the rest of the pit crew and drive team got rides to Ford Field. So the drive team and pit crews for all 8 teams did not have to walk to Ford Field. We all had rides.
So you guys were like police escorted, and you now know what it's like to work for Brinks, the armored truck company.
Kind of felt like a VIP experience.
Right.
But the rest of the team had to walk, so that's
minus the limo and the refreshments.
Right.
Zach, did you ride with your robot, or did someone else?
No, one of our adult mentors rode with the robot. We went with the shuttles, and like 4027, we sort of feel like we might have got the short end of the straw on that one, because we were in this mid-sized shuttle, like mid-range shuttle bus going over there. And then when we were coming back, the majority of the team actually walked back or went with one of our mentors. But my dad and I went early to start packing up the pick. So we went on one of the vans, and it turns out that I think it was the van that Strike Force ended up on, but it was this like leather-seated limo van, like all like really nice and clean and stuff. Because the shuttle we had coming in the first place to Ford Field, we found like a beer bottle cap down one of the seats. So it was a completely different experience coming back.
Maybe Cory slipped him a 10. You know, he got the leather-bound seat, vehicle.
I think first is getting whatever cars I could find and get people moving around.
Right. And Kyle, did you ride with your robot? Did someone who did you put in the van?
No, my husband rode with the robot. We just stuck him in the van and said we're going with the rest of the team. So, no, I'm kidding. He did go ride with the robot. We did get in the shuttles, although I didn't see any leather seats. So now I'm seriously disappointed that we got the lowest end of the stick, because we went over in a mid-size bus, which we actually had a lot of fun in because it was our alliance together. And then we came back on the big bus, but it was funny because the team that walked back to Cobo got there before us on the shuttle bus, which was kind of strange. But, it was really super cool to get us all transported there. When it was done, it was so confusing because half of our pit was at Cobo, half of it was here. We'd ask, can we get a ride over there? And there was some miscommunication, but I planned on talking to Toby at first and just giving some suggestions. Cory was on par when he said it was like the great race, because we got it's like, here's your next clue. And then everyone asked questions and we're like, I don't know, this is all it says. So we got to figure out what it says, and then we got to do what it says. And so it was pretty cool when the shuttle buses, for our shuttle bus, we got dropped off at the wrong door. So we had to walk around the building. But when we got in, it was really cool because here we walked down the tunnel and got to walk onto the main field, which was really cool. And for me, it was even more special because, as I mentioned, my son's the driver, but he also played football for the state championships there. So this was my second chance to be with the team and walk through the tunnel at Ford Field and onto the field. So it was pretty sweet. It was incredibly special. And I think the pit crew and the drive team really felt like little celebrities as we, were able to experience this. It was pretty awesome.
Well, I'm sure that first is learning. I mean, this is a new venue, and especially going from one building to another building, the logistics of that, depending on the weather. You guys luckily had good weather. You didn't have to worry about that, but I'm sure they'll scrub it up. They'll get it ready for the next couple of years, and maybe you guys, if you guys win another one next year, I can interview you and ask you how it was different. Brandi, did your team walk to Ford Field?
Yeah, so we decided to go back to our hotel, drop all of our bags and stuff off, and then we walked to Ford Field and we watched our friends win from section 319 in the nosebleeds.
And what was the difference between the last match at Cobo and then going over to Ford Field? How long did you guys have? Like 2 hours to do that, or was it like 30 minutes, like the greatest race, or with how Cory was talking?
I bet that to them it probably felt like 10 minutes. For us, it was forever. I mean, it was a little bit of a walk, but like we said earlier, the weather was beautiful. There were lots of teams out there. Security was awesome. Like, we got straight in, walked straight in. The seats that we had were actually pretty great. We were 3 floors up, but we were along the long side of the field, and we actually got to watch everybody getting out of their van. So Cory, when you're getting out of your super high class van, we got to watch all that, and like we were watching above, like, what is this, like CIA stuff here? Like,
that's what it felt like.
It was pretty cool, and just watching everybody. And I think that the matches, when you're up that high and you're watching everything from a bird's eye view, it's definitely a different perspective, knowing what goes into that. And I mean, it was a long time between when we left Cobo and when the time started, definitely. And I think that's something, that you need that time for the logistics of the teams getting from one place to the other. But I definitely think that there's something that could have been done for the teams in that amount of time. I don't know what, but I think for the first time of doing this, it was great. I just wish that we would have been able to spend a little bit more time at Ford Field, because I feel like, we got all the way over there for these matches and it was very climactic, but at the same time, like, we're at Ford Field where the Lions play in this huge arena and we got to watch 2 matches.
Well, I'm sure first is following the feedback, and they'll try to maximize as much entertainment as possible. I think they're going to learn from this year and then figure out what they want to do for next year.
Yeah, definitely. It was a step up though from last year when we spent hours and hours waiting. Definitely was awesome.
And I'll tell all of you guys, all four of you guys, when you have the chance, go back and look at the Twitch feed, and you will see Dean Kamen act like a 5-year-old. He has this look of joy on his face when they put a t-shirt cannon in his hand, and he is running around Ford Field shooting balls and t-shirts into the air with I can't remember the colonel from the Air Force's name, but they were having competitions to see how far they could shoot a t-shirt up into the stands. It was awesome. There's some great memes going around already because, memes and first go hand in hand nowadays. But it's pretty entertaining. So for our champs, we're going to sign you guys off, and then me and Brandi are going to get to our final rookie roundup for this year. So Cory, as you sign off, I have one last question for you. Just tell us again your name, your position, what team you're with, and then tell me what you think Deep Space is going to be, because they've already announced it for next year, and you know what? We all have to look at something for next year. So tell me what you think that's going to be.
I haven't even really put a lot of thought into it. So I'm going to say that Deep Space is going to have a space theme to it. I don't know. I haven't even thought about it yet.
There's people joking that it's gonna be Lunacy 2.0. The 2009 limited friction game, and Kyle's rolling her eyes and shaking her head at me already. I can see her on the cam.
Oh, we nearly played that game on Ford Field with all the static problems we had down there.
Lord have mercy.
Oh man, goodness! Thought robots are gonna die. No, I don't know. I think there'll be a rocket ship in there. I think there'll be a spaceship.
Moonmen.
Yeah, there'll be a spaceship in the game. There's gonna be a spaceship.
Maybe they'll model the trophies after the MTV Music Awards. You remember that trophy that they used to give out with the Moon Man and the little M in his hand?
Astronaut guy.
I know I'm old. I can actually remember that stuff.
Yep, Deep Space. I think there'll be a rocket ship. My name is Cory Walters. I am the drive coach for FRC 2767 Strike Force, back-to-back world champions. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
And before I get to Zach, Cory, you guys have to model a Bad Boys. Get a T-shirt out there that looks like the Bad Boys back-to-back from back in the 90s. I think it was 90-91 Detroit Pistons. Try to do something like that for a T-shirt for you guys this year. I think that would be awesome for back-to-back.
Yeah, we're kicking around some ideas, and we hope to be able to release it so everybody can buy one if they like one.
Nice. So you're up next, Zach.
Okay. So my predictions.
Your name, team number, where you're from, and then your prediction for Deep Space.
Yeah, so I'm Zach Jester. I'm the drive coach of 4027 from State College, Pennsylvania. And so my predictions, first off, the one joke is the logo for Deep Space is a space shuttle. And what's the main emission from space shuttle engines?
To thrust?
No, the main chemical emission is steam. Water.
Are you saying a water game? Are you trying to do the conspiracy theory of the water game again?
In all seriousness, I think either going to be some rover-based game where you're exploring some planet surface, or along the lines of Steamworks where you have to repair your rocket ship using various game pieces.
Maybe shooting balls into the air. Everyone likes to do that, right? It's a game pleaser.
Moon rock.
Yeah, it's better to get hit with a moon rock than it is a milk crate. I'm just saying. Thanks, Zach. Kyle, you're up next.
Like Cory, I really haven't thought of anything except for the fact I'm still trying to make sure this is real, that we won the world championship. That just seems so foreign to me. But I think some sort of moon rocks. There's going to be a spaceship. I think last year's game was pretty stinking successful. So I think they may take some sort of elements of that where you've got human players on the field, in the middle of the field. I thought that was really cool last year. But I don't know. If they go back to the regolith floor, I'm going to probably cry. Then I might retire because it might be time. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that whatever. I think they've already got the game planned. So I just think it's cool that we're getting the theme this far ahead because it makes everybody start thinking and like we don't really need a break. That's not the way First works anymore. But my name is Kyle Hughes. I'm with Team Rush 27, first time world champions. And you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well. And I just got to tell you that my team fell in love with many teams this weekend at the World Championship, including the Netherlands teams, our alliance partners. We got to hang out with the Average Joes. There was just a lot of teams that really had fun with us this weekend. And I think that's what it's all about. At some point, when you go to the World Championship, you need to stop, look around, and just realize how incredibly blessed we all are that we can go and play together with something so cool as robots. So that's it for Kyle Hughes. Thank you.
Up now is the RoboZone Rookie Rundown.
All right, Brandi. So this is our last. Can you believe it's our last one? It's the last rookie roundup for 2018. I cannot believe that.
It makes me a little sad, Pete. You're finishing your rookie year. Congratulations, you made it.
Thanks. Thank you. I did make it. I still have all my hair. I didn't go gray. But I couldn't have done it without you, Brandi. I couldn't have done it without all the people that helped me too. So I think anyone that's listening to this, if you helped out 70, 56 or any rookie team this year, thanks for what you guys did. You guys really make First fun. Seriously, and that's not a tagline. I could see it on a t-shirt, but that's not a tagline.
I think that's what's so unique about First is that so many teams just want everyone to be better. Talking to Cory and to Zach and to Kyle tonight, it's so evident that First is definitely a different community than so many other communities throughout the world. And it's just amazing to see what teams will do to work together to build each other up and to help each other out. And I think that throughout this season, I think that you and I, our conversations that we've had have really shown that the First community is just there to make everyone better.
It is. And every mentor that I talked to this year asked me if I needed any help, whether it was you, whether it was Tim from 302, whether it was the Fridge Bots with Scott Stapp, whether it was Ellen with Big Mo. Everyone was always willing to help me as a rookie, and I'm going to pass that on and pay it forward to any rookie teams that come up this following year. So hopefully, after we have this conversation, maybe next season we can, build on this rookie roundup. And I'm not going to put you under that bus right now to answer, but just think it over.
Absolutely, Pete.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about? I think we talked earlier that we want to talk about recruiting, right? Because rookie teams need to start fundraising, putting money in the coffers or the war chest or whatever acronym you want to use. But how would a team going about? Should they be recruiting at this point? Should they wait? What's your opinion, Brandi?
I think the number one mistake that a rookie team could make right now is to just stop, because this is, whether you've had a very successful season or maybe it's been a struggle for you, or maybe it's been somewhere in the middle. Maybe you're changing mentorship. Maybe you're having a big turnaround of students, or maybe you're going to have this great successful team and you've already got so many people that are interested in helping out next year and you've got mentors lined up. Whatever your situation is right now, don't stop. There are so many off-season events available throughout the entire country, throughout the entire world for teams to go to. And I think that it is imperative for rookie teams to continue the momentum that they have right now. And if you ended your season on a low note or it was a struggle for you, coming up with a plan that you can start implementing now that will carry you through the summer and into the fall before first season starts up for the 2019 season is something that's going to make all the difference in the world for you. So right now, just an example, and now granted we'll be going into our 12th season. We already have 4 off-season events planned for the Engine Nerds. We'll be attending the Michigan Advanced Robotics Competition in June. We'll be attending, hopefully, the Indiana Robotics Invitational in Kokomo, Indiana in July. We'll be attending the Chimeras Team 1684's RoboCon in July. And then we'll also be hopefully attending the Kettering Kickoff in September. But that's all going to depend on when Baby Bolinger decides to make his or her appearance. But we think that it's very important for us to sign up for these events because we spent all of this time, all of this money, all of this energy, all this heart building this robot. And now that the competition season is done, yes, we can go do demos for our partners. Yes, we can go to our Board of Education. Yes, we can do recruiting efforts at our school. But being able to use this robot for competition continuously is something that we find gives our team adrenaline. And that's something that we've talked a lot about this year, is taking that adrenaline that you have within you and continuing it forward. This is an opportunity for you to invite new students that are at your school out to these events, for you to invite new sponsors, for you to invite your school board out to these events, some of them which might be local to you, and continue that momentum that you have going right now. And a lot of them are really affordable. Some of them are going to cost you about $250. Some of them are more expensive, but it's a great opportunity for you to get your money's worth and your time's worth and your effort's worth out of your robot and train up your new students. So when you have your lead programmer graduating, this is now an opportunity for you to bring one of those students who's been an understudy or a student who's been observing in and have them deploy the code, have them write new autonomous modes, have them tune the drivetrain, have them do things so that they can be involved and that you grow the leadership of your team for the next year.
And Brandi, there's off-season events that are all girl events too, aren't there? Didn't you guys win one last year that was an all girl event?
Did we win? Yeah, we did win. Sorry.
I heard him. I heard the beard.
Clint's sitting here next to me. Team 2834, who just won the chairman's at the the world competition. They host the Bloomfield Girls event that takes place in late October, early November timeframe. So that's still quite a ways down the road. But yeah, we do attend that as well.
I know of one other one that I signed my team up for, and that's the one out at Ferris State. That's it's either in late September or early October, and that's one where people bring robots and they run out of people to even drive them, so they let the public drive them. So it's kind of entertaining.
There's that one. There's the Baybot Bash. If you are in Michigan and you join the Michigan Events and Training Workshop page on Facebook, there's a list on there of all of the different off-season events that are in Michigan, and I guarantee that there is something near you. There's lots on the west side of the state. They're all over the state of Michigan, and it's not just limited to Michigan. Yes, Michigan has a lot because we do have 500 teams here, but all over the country there are things like this going on, and anyone that you can go to that your budget and your students and your time allows, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And even if you can't get your robot and your students to go as a team, it is a great opportunity for you to bring students to the events to see what it's like, especially new students, and just network with other teams. A lot of these off-season events offer workshops. They offer planning sessions. They offer, I think, how to apply for awards. They offer so many opportunities at these off-season events. I know Team Rush does a mentor camp over the summer. There's anything that you could possibly imagine happens in the off-season, and don't stop now. Keep your adrenaline going.
Right, it's so hard to get kids back into something once they kind of scatter. And even if it's just a touch point once a month, it's better than waiting until January and kickoff and then having to spin everyone back up again, right?
Exactly. So what we actually do on the Engineers is a couple of years ago, we started recruiting 8th graders in May. So at the third week of May, we're actually hosting a robot boot camp where we have invited all of our 8th grade students and students who are in the high school who are wanting to join the robotics team who haven't yet. An evening to come and see what it's like to meet our team, to get a little bit of training and to kind of see what it takes to be an engineer, right? And we think that it's important to kind of get them hooked now before the summer sets in so that they can come to all of these off-season events. Because if we don't start telling them about it now, when we go to things in June and July and August, they will not have known about us. So we like to tell them now. And the other thing that we like to do is plan our off-season events and meetings before school lets out so that all of those dates are already readily available to them while they're still kind of in school mode before summer mode kicks in.
So all really good pieces of information for recruiting and keeping everyone up to date. So let's talk about fundraising, Brandi, because my focus right now is because I made state championships. I didn't win it. We didn't even get picked in playoffs, but we made it for our first year as a rookie team. And for anyone that did that, congratulations. For those that didn't get to the state championships, don't lose that fight. Keep going for next year and getting ready. But now's the best time to fundraise, right? While everyone still has robotics on the mind in schools. Do you agree?
I do agree. So step number one is definitely to create some kind of a budget. Now that you've kind of made it through a season, you know what kind of registration fees you're going to incur. You know what kind of costs you use to build the robot. You know what kind of money it took for your team to travel to events, to stay in hotels, to have food. All of the costs, you know how much it's going to cost for your team to do those things and for you to compile that into a budget. You're going to want to include information about your team. If you are a first-year team, a second-year team, a third-year team, a 25th-year team, write up a little synopsis about who you are, where you're from, the things you've accomplished, the things that your students are proud of doing, and put that into a booklet with pictures of your season in order for you to have something to give to potential sponsors. People are a lot more likely to sponsor someone that looks well put together, that has gone through the process of making themselves presentable with some kind of a business plan. And like we talked about before, $5,000 sounds like a lot of money until you break it down into $500 increments, right? It's a lot easier to go to people and ask them for $500 than it is to go to people and ask them for $5,000. Doesn't hurt to ask for $5,000, but $500 is a lot more attainable, a lot easier to come by in nowadays, especially with so many teams in Michigan and the high concentration of FIRST Robotics teams across the country. Breaking it down smaller is great. I would also highly suggest that you appoint a student on your team that is going to be your entrepreneurship, your business section leader, your financial planning section leader, and have a mentor and a student go together to businesses to distribute this business plan that you have or this budget that you have in order to try to start gaining sponsorships now. Your first $5,000 registration fee is due around November timeframe. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that. So starting off your school year with at least $5,000 in your bank account is definitely something that you're going to want to reach for.
And if I can add anything to what you said, Brandi, one of the biggest things here in Michigan for a rookie team is we get a special grant from our illustrious governor, Governor Snyder, that started that program, which gave us $7,000 in their first year. But that money is considerably cut short in the second year, and you only get $2,500. So that's one of the reasons why we're fundraising now, just to make sure that we can make up for that money that we can't count on next year.
There are definitely a lot of things that are made available to rookie teams that once you've had a season under your belt that are no longer there for you as support systems. So we can kind of have a little conversation later on about going into your sophomore year and the things that you need to be prepared for that you may not necessarily have thought of because they were their security blankets as your first year.
And we can save that conversation for Rookie Roundup 2.0, maybe in January.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to get you laughing one last time. So, Brandi, is there anything else you wanted to share? I know we've been going for almost an hour now, so I want to be cognizant of your time. Is there anything else you'd like to share as far as Rookie Roundup this year?
I think that the last thing you want to talk about and you definitely want to think about is going forward, remembering that as you're approaching your second year, no matter what kind of season you had your first year, that you still always want to do everything within your means. You want to plan off-season events within your means. You want to have team meetings that don't take up too much time over the summer, but still have that need met for your students to continue their adrenaline. You want to think about robot planning within your means, because it's really easy to remember the success that you had at the end of your season, whether you made it to states, whether you made it to the first championship, or whether you just went to your 2 events and called it good. You want to do things that are going to allow you to be successful, but still push you a little bit. And I think that's the number one struggle for second-year teams, especially if you're having a turnover in mentor students, that doing what's right for your team is always very difficult. But as the mentors on your team and as the student leadership on your team, you always need to take a step back and re-examine what your resources are and make sure that you are doing everything within them. And the other thing is, so many of the quick build workshops that are going to take place in January aren't just for first year teams. Think about signing up for one of those again. So when those registrations start coming out here over the summertime and into the fall, consider going to a quick build workshop. Consider going to the Team Rush mentor camp. Consider going to any camp that you can get that will teach you about different methods of programming, different methods of building, different methods of organization, awards applications, anything that you can see that's not just robot related. Take every advantage to learn as much as you can from every person that you can in the first community.
And Brandi, I cannot thank you enough for coming on this Rookie Roundup segment through this whole season. I really appreciate it. I'm so I don't know how I'll figure out some way to thank you and Clinton for doing what you guys done. I mean, to run your team and then come on here, I greatly appreciate it. So on behalf of everyone that's listening and every rookie team that you've helped out this year, thank you very much to both of you guys. And for anyone that helps your group, helps us as rookie teams. So thank you for doing that.
You're very welcome. And the best way to thank me is to just keep on doing what you do and to pay it forward.
I will do that. So as you sign out, Brandi, tell us again what team you're from, your role on the team, and then give me what you think Deep Space is going to be. I know Clinton's sitting right next to you, so maybe he's got some thoughts.
My name is Brandi Bolinger, and I am co-head mentor for Team 2337, the Engine Nerds, out of Grand Lake, Michigan. And my prediction for the 2019 season is hopefully that it's going to be nothing like 2009, but that as we've seen the theme games through first increase, I'm really hoping that it's going to be something that's simple, hopefully multiple game pieces, hopefully something with shooting. I think that there's always something to be said, something exciting about watching a game where the game pieces aren't just pick and place, that it's a shooting game. Maybe something to do with a ball, something orbiting, I'm not sure. If you kind of look back at the history of first game pieces, they kind of have a tendency to do a ball, non-ball, ball, non-ball. And since there was a cube this year, maybe we'll see a ball next year. Possibly an uneven playing surface. We've had a flat field for the last couple of years, so maybe seeing something where you're going to have to traverse over obstacles. I'm very excited.
Well, thank you again, Brandi, for stopping by, for coming on the podcast. We'll check in with you every so often if you don't mind. And as soon as you release your guys' sign up for that one-day build, please let me know, because I know I'm signing my team up for it. And I highly suggest anyone that's listening sign their team up for it.
Will do, Pete.
Again, I'd like to thank the champs for stopping by tonight, and Brandi Bolinger for 2337 in wrapping up the rookie roundup for the season. And with that, Power Up is now done. There are off-season events, as we spoke of, and don't forget to keep the first dream alive and get ready for the next FRC season. We have many more episodes to come, including FTC, FLL, Junior FLL, cover those seasons. So the podcast doesn't stop. We are going to take a 2-week vacation just so that we can recharge the batteries after an exhausting power-up season. And we have a special senior edition of the RoboZone podcast coming up, so don't forget about that. In addition, and I'd like to thank everyone that has contributed so far, but we're doing the podcast robot community build. We will have more details on that through our social media, and we'll have it on the next episode of the podcast. Thank you for listening to the RoboZone podcast. This was the 59th episode of the RoboZone podcast. You can listen to us on Google Music, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
The RoboZone podcast is brought to you by Kettering University. It's a Kettering-built world. Thanks for listening to the RoboZone podcast with your host, Pete Ekman. Find us online at robozonetv.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.